Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 41 today for the USA Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. Really great race at Japan. I think we came back in some sort of fashion. Obviously, it wasn't a race win, but it was still the podium. We hadn't been on the podium for 3 races before then. It was very crucial, and it was a very important one, obviously, because Mercedes imploded. They scored no points, so we come here to USA feeling a little more comfortable. Basically, we've got a lot of time also in the activity timeline here to go ahead and do some simulated training with science for 2 days, and then just some other activities to try and boost the team acclaim, as we're now quite near to level 20 on the acclaim. I think we're over halfway now, so maybe into season 3 we'll finally unlock that 4th sponsor, which will be quite important, obviously, because it doesn't look like there's going to be an R&D reset. I would be very shocked if the game gives us one now so late on into the season. So what we've got now is what we'll have at the start of next year, so we need to continue to plow on then into the R&D tree, and that means obviously getting enough money to get to spec level 3 on some of these HQ facilities. But speaking about upgrading and plowing on into the tree, we're going to continue then to upgrade the car, because if we've got no reset, there's no point being too cautious with it. And of course, we're still in a championship fight, which is getting harder and harder because Mercedes are getting faster. They upgraded last weekend, as did we, but they looked pretty quick. And Ferrari, of course, they've just been an enigma. I don't know where they've come from. They've won the last 5 races. Leclerc is looking like a man on an absolute mission with 4 wins out of those 5. So we do need to make upgrades. So to that effect, in the background there, you saw we upgraded, we purchased 2 minor upgrades on the chassis side, a brakes update and a weight redistribution. We've rushed both those upgrades, which is a massive gamble. But as of late, all the rushing we've been doing on development has actually worked out. So we're going to go ahead, roll the dice and see if this works out, and there you go. Once again, for now the 3rd time I think this is in the season, we've rushed developments and they've come in. So 2 minor upgrades on the car. It means we're once again the best team in terms of the chassis. Engine wise, we're a little bit down, obviously, I think, compared to Mercedes and Red Bull, but it's still pretty good compared to most of the grid. And then aero wise, I think we're still the best team on the grid actually as it stands. So looking in top shape. But of course, I probably suspect Mercedes will also upgrade into this race weekend, just looking at the pattern of their R&D in the last few episodes. But for us, that's a really positive step. Another brakes update to hopefully help ourselves, because as I said, that's really one of the biggest areas I'm still yet to really feel comfortable with on this game, is under braking. I just don't have that same confidence and punchiness I kind of did on last year's game in F1 2019 with any of the cars I used to drive in career mode on that game. Into the race weekend, like I said, very important for us to upgrade, because yet again, Mercedes upgrade as well. Red Bull and Ferrari not so much. So we're kind of having a bit of a 2-horse race in terms of the R&D race, but obviously that's on paper. On track, Ferrari just seem to have this alien-like pace they've just got in the last 5 races. And to be fair, last episode, Verstappen did hound us a bit in that Red Bull car. Obviously, in the end, their tyre wear strategy didn't work out for them, but that Red Bull car did look pretty nifty around Suzuka. USA is a very different circuit, albeit, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. I think it's still going to be quite tough. And also, the thing is, science has also not been too great in the last few episodes, and so it means, although we do have a bit of a cushion to Mercedes in the championship, we need to be cautious, because USA historically has been a very difficult circuit for me. I know the last few races we've done in career mode at COTA, I've said that every time and I've managed to get a good result, but honestly I can just never, be easy about it, because USA is always a very good one for their AI. They're so consistent around here, and I've just never gelled well with the circuit. And then we've got tracks like Brazil, which are going to always be tough. The AI are very good around there. And then Mexico, I don't know, with the pace that Ferrari have shown in a straight line as of late, I think they might just blitz and dominate Mexico, so we need to watch out for that. So it's by no means over. We've got 4 races left, and it is very much crunch time in the Drivers' Championship between myself, Leclerc, and Hamilton maybe, and then the Constructors with ourselves and Mercedes, of course. And despite Mercedes upgrading, we've got to look at ourselves. We've got 2 upgrades this weekend, 2 minor ones, so that's going to be a positive step forward to hopefully move forward the car and hopefully just keep on trying to extract some pace out of it, as we have. I felt like we've been a bit slower as of late. Obviously Ferrari's been a big reason for that. If they weren't there, I wouldn't be as worried, of course, but they are, so we do. And in Q1, well, I cut it close there. It wasn't a great lap. It's very overcast for some reason. It's very depressingly gloomy right now on Saturday. I don't know why. There's no rain forecast, but it's just very dark. So it was a weird kind of Saturday to go through because the track just looked very odd. But yeah, Q1 was cutting it fine, let's say, for that time. But we made it through. That's the important thing. Q2 then, I was looking at the indicator of what everyone was doing. Because as a few of you suggested in the comments below last episode, I wanted to maybe try and match Leclerc or Ferrari in general. If they were going to try something clever with going on to medium tyres, I'll try and match them and try and do that. But they all went on softs. Everyone's on softs, so it looks like everyone's on the same page when it comes to strategy. So there's no point of doing that. Essentially, it looks like the tyre wear levels should allow us all to probably do, I would say, a one stop. I think it must be from soft tyres to the hards, I think, around COTA. So no worries there in terms of having a difference, and everyone's going to be on the same tyre at the start of the Grand Prix. But Q2 then, again, very hairy and sketchy there. We went for 2 runs. This second run I went on wasn't any better than the first one. I didn't improve that lap time, and I only just make it through once again into the next session, into Q3 and P10, Sainz in P7. Our car does not look very pacey around. As I said, in general, the last few episodes, our car has looked a little bit less pacey, but, you know, Suzuka, you know, we turned it around last episode. We looked very quick in the race, and we managed to beat a Ferrari car. But here now, we're back down to reality, I guess, because here I've had 2 very close sessions, and it can't be coincidence that I've only just managed to scrape through these 2 sessions. There's just no pace in the car, and I'm going to be honest, through these laps, the car just actually felt worse. We've had 2 upgrades, one of them being on the brakes, and under braking, it felt like I was braking on a sponge. Like, there was no responsiveness. I had no confidence whatsoever, especially in the heavy brake zones. We were trying to slow down the car in a straight line, get it turned in for that left-hand, you know, 90 degree at the end of the back straight. Just a lack of kind of oomph and front biting point. So into the top 10 shootout then, Q3. The first run will be on a scrub set of soft tyres, as I had to obviously use 2 new sets in Q2. So I had only 1 fresh set for this shootout, which is obviously the free set they give you for getting into the top 10. So this is that set now on the second run. That first one was actually not too bad, to be fair. To say that that set of tyres had already done 1 entire quali run and was about 6 laps old by the time I crossed the line. That's actually an okay lap time there, just to be behind Carlos Sainz. So maybe says more about Sainz's poor lap than my, you know, poor situation with those tyres, basically. But into the second run then, this is on a brand spanking new set of tyres. So at this point, this tyre compound is 5 laps newer than the one I just set a time on. We've gained a decent amount of time, but not that much. And you can see now I'm oversteering all over the place. There's also some understeer creeping as well. And I've lost all the time I gained, essentially, into Sector 3. In Sectors 1 and 2, I hardly gained any time. And then there, as you said, wash of understeer. And we lose all the time. And so, across the line, we've gone worse. Absolutely baffled. I don't know what's going on here, but we are in trouble. This race is going to be quite difficult. We've got a Noah's Ark situation of 2x2, 2 Mercedes locking out the front row, which is surprising. So Mercedes upgrades finally enough to maybe topple Ferrari, but it's all very close actually to Sebastian Vettel in 3rd place. But 2 Ferraris second row, then the Red Bulls, then you got Sainz, Albon, then myself and Norris. So very puzzling. I mean, for myself individually, puzzling that second run on the fresh set of tyres. I didn't gain any time, like I said, in the first 2 sectors. I don't know, maybe it's track evolution. It was such a, like I said, gloomy Saturday, so maybe the track temps just dropped on that at the end of Q3, and that's why I just wasn't able to improve too much in the first 2 sectors. But under braking, got no confidence. The car in general looks to have no pace because also Sainz didn't qualify too well. It looks to be damage limitation central for the race tomorrow. All we got to pray that maybe it's sunnier on Sunday and that heat can maybe do something. Maybe our car just doesn't like cold temperatures, and maybe in the heat with the sun out, maybe our car will have some more race pace. But this may be a very good race for Mercedes to basically make up for their calamities of Japan, basically. But let's go to Sunday and see how we do from P9 on the grid.
Welcome once again then to the United States Grand Prix here in the magnificent city of Austin. It was here in 2018 that Kimi Raikkonen delighted the world by winning for the first time in 114 races. There's always a record to be broken, so what, I wonder, is in store for us today? We're racing today then in Travis County, Texas, around the 20 corners of the wonderful Circuit of the Americas. We'll be reaching speeds of around 200 miles an hour, and there are plenty of good opportunities to pass, especially through the 2 DRS zones into Turn 1 and the very long back straight into Turn 12. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Max Verstappen, and Ricciardo, Sainz, Albon, the owner driver, and Lando Norris, Stroll, Kvyat, Esteban Ocon, and Perez, Gasly, Russell, Nobuharu Matsushita, and Antonio Giovinazzi. Grosjean, Aitken, Latifi, and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
So thankfully it is a lot sunnier here on Sunday, so I do think it will make a little bit of a difference maybe on track temperatures and just the evolution of the circuit. Strategy-wise, as I said, I assumed it was going to be a one-stop from the soft to the hard tyres. A two-stop is available. I think last season, didn't we do the two-stop? I think we did, and we made it work quite well, actually. It was quite a fun one, but I think in this instance now, P9, we're trying to jump, obviously, and trying to fight the cars ahead of us of Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes. I think the one-stop with track position is going to be the way to go, but I really don't know what to expect from this race, so let's just get into it and see how we do as we go to 5 red lights then here in Austin, Texas for the USA Grand Prix. Bar lights are out and we're underway. It's a good start compared to Alexander Albon. Sainz makes a good one as well as he goes to the left-hand side. Leclerc trying to go down the inside maybe and defend from Verstappen. Vettel around the outside of Bottas as we go on the outside of one car as well. Ricciardo, but a massive tank slapper for us, and Ricciardo gets the place back. So it was a really good turn one for us. We overtook our teammate onto Ricciardo, but then rear end just stepped out there. The heavier fuel getting the best of me there on the rear end. So we're down to P7 now, but at the moment it's a 1-2 for Mercedes and still 2x2 with the 2 Ferraris next, and then the Red Bulls as we get on the curb though through this S section, and Sainz has got down the inside of us up the hill. He's overtaken us. We've made another bad mistake on the opening lap. Here we go defensive now against Lance Stroll in the Racing Point car of all people. So it's actually really a scruffy first lap there. The initial getaway, fine, but then since then, mistake to let Ricciardo pass. Big mistake there. I think we just got on the curb, that was, on the right, as I tried to accelerate on that, and then just got the rear end snapped out, and then Sainz just slipped through on the inside on that left-hander. So he's up the order. We're back down to P8 then. So lap number 2, trying to compose ourselves and settle into some sort of rhythm of this circuit, but I'm looking up ahead of the minimap, and Mercedes are absolutely stonking away as we now make a bit of a lunge down the inside of Sainz. He's a bit slow through that double left-hander of the last second last corner and last corner, and we're up into P7 then. Personal best lap time for us then on towards lap number 3, and we caught Sainz napping essentially through that left-hander section, and so able to make the place and kind of push away, and now we are settling a bit more. We've got a bit more pace. Lap number 4 though, trying to catch up to Ricciardo, and you can see the improvements Red Bull have made through this season. You know, at the start of this season, we would have walked past Ricciardo, I felt, on that straight with ERS, but the Red Bulls made some massive gains on the engine side, and I think they're even better than us on the engine R&D performance index. So you can see we won't be able to make a move really in straight line maybe, because we're kind of now stuck in a DRS train of Vettel in 3rd place, Leclerc, Verstappen, Ricciardo. So we're going to have to try and force a move and carve one out in the corners if we can. Well, we're coming up to that same left-hander where we gained so much time on Sainz, and again on Ricciardo, getting a lot of time there. We're just so much better than the AI through that corner. We pressurise Ricciardo this time. Don't make a lunge to the inside. Probably should have in hindsight there. I don't know why I tried around the outside, but we just had the momentum on that side of the circuit. But instead now we're going to try and line up a pass now. Slingshot off the last corner into the first on the next lap. Lap number 5, jockeying for position on the outside. Ricciardo holds a defensive line on the inside, but now down the crest. Use the overtake button to good use. Down the right-hander, and we get the job done just before the Magnus Beckett style left and right, and we're up into P6 then, and looking to try and chase after Max Verstappen, and again through this left-hander, so much stronger than these guys, so we need to try and abuse that to good use and make all the time we can, because in sectors 1 and 2 we're only just about hanging on to them. The tyres are also screaming out now as we get towards the end of this first stint. Lap number 9 or 10 would be the pit stop time, but here we go, dive bomb on Verstappen now, very fine on the right hand side. We've had so many altercations with the Dutchman as of late in this season, but that one was a bit more of a clean overtake overtake there, and we're up into P5. So this is more like it, showing some race pace now, and up ahead of us, Vettel struggling for tyre wear as he locks up quite a fair bit on the left-hand side there and slows up his teammate Leclerc, the man that has been dominating the last 5 races, 4 wins out of 5, and he is now the main man in the championship fight with us in the Drivers' Championship. I said I was quite scared of him, but, you know, to be fair, this race, Mercedes, look at the minimap, they're doing me a massive favour here in the Drivers' Championship because Mercedes are dominating this one. It's a whitewash so far for the 2 silver arrows as Vettel now is going to come in. Leclerc continues on, but yeah, I was worried about Leclerc winning another race and being right there with us in the championship fight, but if Mercedes carry on this kind of momentum for the rest of this Grand Prix, they'll have the 1-2 and Leclerc will be nowhere near that 25 points, and if we can be, you know, right here with him, we could maybe even try and overtake Leclerc and try and extend that gap in the championship. It's kind of a two-pronged story because this is good for us in the Drivers' Championship, but remember, constructors-wise, if Mercedes were to get a 1-2 and we get, I don't know, like P4 or 5 behind one of the Ferrari cars and Sainz is still behind the 2 Red Bulls, that's bad news because that means then Mercedes will close right up to us, which is why I think going to season 3, definitely looking to replace Sainz. You know, as of late, he's not been as good as he used to be when we had a more dominant car. You know, under pressure in the traffic, he's just not as quick as we need him to be. It's a good pit stop for us. Onto hard tyres. We're actually out quite quickly. And where is Leclerc? There he is. That's so unfortunate. If that was real life, or if it was, if there was no ghosting with this game, we may have jumped the Ferrari car. But into turn 1, Vettel round the outside. Oh, the 2 Ferraris made contact. Is there some damage for Vettel on the front left of his front wing? I think there might be, but the 2 Ferraris have collided out the pit lane. Leclerc just about got into turn 1 first, but Vettel, obviously with the warmer tyres, he's on the soft compound, but we go down the inside because he's got damage now. So the Ferraris have shot themselves in the foot. Leclerc's gone onto hard tyres with me, so he's doing the 1 stop, but their other man, Vettel, who's on a set of soft tyres, the man who kind of needs the performance and needs his front wing to obviously make a 2-stop work, has got damage now. So that's probably Vettel taken out the entire fight because I suspect he's going to have to pit early now and go really long on a set of hard tyres. So ironically, he's going to have to use the white wall set in this race. So that's one less Ferrari to worry about. We've got the other one right ahead of us here. Can we try and overtake him into turn 1, deploying all the ERS, DRS open, rich mix going down the inside, lock up on the front left, try and get the car slowed down. Didn't quite have the punchiness I wanted into turn 1, but can we try and get it done? Maybe into the S section using some ERS last minute there. Oh, massive contact with Leclerc around. We hit the wall. And we just about somehow get away with that crash. And we don't lose our front wing. We've gone in the gravel trap. We've got very warm tyres now. But, oh my god, that is not what we needed there. We tried to overtake Leclerc. Didn't quite have the pace off turn 1. I used a bit of overtake mode. In hindsight, maybe should have used more. But then Leclerc just turns into us, I feel. I mean, we try to go on the outside, which was always going to be very, very nerve-wracking. But Leclerc just did not give us any room to work with. Span round. I'm, like I said, very lucky because that 360 spin almost got just smashed into the wall. I don't know how the front wing actually didn't fall off there. And all we come away with is some damage on the tyres, I guess, through the gravel trap and the overheating with that spin. But on board with Leclerc, he doesn't even feel it. Like, he felt a little bit of a jolt and corrected for it, but for him, that hardly happened. But this is now slow-mo replay, and I gotta admit here, now looking at this slow-mo, it's my fault. I can't blame Leclerc there. I'm not alongside him. As I said, in hindsight, I should have used way more ERS. I should have been deploying it this entire time if I wanted to actually genuinely make this overtake on the left-hand side. But you can see, initially, Leclerc did give me the room, but then as we got to the apex, he just closed the door, as he would have, as I would have if I was in his position. So I'll put my hands up. That was my mistake. It's a really big one compared to the smaller ones we were in lap 1, but look at that. I don't know how we didn't lose our front wing. I literally tapped the barrier with the right-hand side of the front wing. So the fact it's not fallen off is an absolute F1 miracle. So the F1 gods looking down upon us. They still want us to be in this race. We have an opportunity now to make the places back up. The tyres were absolutely on fire, but they're cooling down right now. But we're now down to P10. So we have some catching up to do, some cars to overtake in the form of Kvyat and Albon, etc. But we can still come back in this Grand Prix. Probably not to the same position we're in. You know, we're fighting Leclerc. Now he's miles ahead. But we can maybe at least try and come back for, I don't know, P6, 7. I'm not too sure because there's a few cars ahead of us that were doing a 2 stop, so just the fact that we're not making an extra stop, thankfully, with no damage to the front wing, means that we could actually still jump some people and do some good work here. You know, I talked about and I slated Sainz just earlier for, you know, buckling under pressure and not being as good as he was previously in the season. There's been a lot of flashpoints this season, I can't deny, where I've buckled under pressure, you know, in the heat of battle. You know, I've dropped it at Austria, dropped it, what was it, our British Grand Prix, our home GP, we had to come back then, and now here with Leclerc, there's been a lot of high-profile mistakes that I've made this season, I can't deny it, but I don't know what it is, on this year's game, F1 2020, with the My Team car this year in career mode, I've not been as stable and as consistent as I was on like F1 2019. Like, I hardly made that many mistakes or big mistakes like this where I've span it round and I've been backwards at so many different races on F1 2019, any of those F1 car career modes. But on this year's game with a custom FOM car that's all our own and we've upgraded ourselves, I don't know, just making some high profile errors, but we've got to make the most of it now. I've got to just own it basically, just make the most of this race. Like I said, because we're still able to do a one stop, I think we can still limit the damage quite well, but first and foremost that means getting past some of these cars up ahead of us, and that might be more difficult than it may look, because we're on hard tyres. These guys up ahead of us are on the soft compound, albeit with some tyre wear, but they are going to be a little bit quicker in the corners, maybe with initial biting in the corners. But again, we're so strong through this left-hander. We have a little look on the inside, but Kvyat's actually okay into that last corner where I just can't kind of scare him off the road there, so we have to go for another one. We go a whole nother lap then until at the end of lap 14 onto 15, and we're still stuck behind the Russian, but now we've got a good run here, open up DRS, deploying overtake mode this entire time. We're going to go for a big dive to the inside, very brave under braking because we're inches away from just smacking the rear left of Kvyat there, but we get the job done up into P8, and now looking to try and close up to Alexander Albon now in the Racing Point car, and up ahead of us, Ricciardo. He's really having a stinker in this race. He's looking very slow now, and obviously he's had no spin or kerfuffle or anything like that. He's just there with that slow pace, but we look to overtake Albon. He goes very defensive on the inside there, so fair play. Nice to see the AI being so clever with the inside move, and to be honest, Albon completely just plays that correctly. I can't get him into turn one because he forces me to the outside there, so we have to go until the back straight then, that same lap, open DRS. This time it'll be a bit more of a slam dunk overtake here, but kudos to the AI for actually being that clever to try and push me onto the outside. They always love to see that. But we're up into P7 now, and Ricciardo up ahead is, like I said, struggling a lot there as the rear end steps out. We get it down the inside the Australian, so the man who we made that similar sort of mistake on lap 1, he overtook us on lap 1 then. We just got him back basically. That's payback in a way, as the rear end just steps out. Very weird because he's on hard tyres, so he has to go to the end of this Grand Prix on that set of tyres, so that's kind of almost very worrying for the Australian man. But away from that, at the moment, I must say, to update you in this race, at the moment later on, Leclerc ends up being in the lead of this Grand Prix because the two Mercedes cars are actually on a two-stop. So Leclerc's on hards, he's leading the way. You've got Bottas in second on medium tyres, Hamilton also on mediums in third place, but those two doing a two-stop. So at the moment, I'm uneasy again about Leclerc because he's leading. And we know how quick the Ferrari car has been in a straight line in the last few episodes. So even though the Mercedes guys have the tyre advantage, I'm scared Leclerc could just hold out due to his straight line speed. So let's watch on and kind of, you know, keep an eye on that. For us though, lap 21, we've been pushing pretty hard to try and catch up to Max Verstappen, the only other man on a one-stop here with us in the top flight. We're looking to try and overtake him now as we gain and gain. We go to the outside, big old lunge, very fine on the front left tyre there. We didn't quite make contact, but it was so close. We're going to try and scrub him off here on the outside. Obviously, we've had a little bit of a tetchiness with Verstappen there, so wanting to just make sure we, you know, send him wide as much as we can and get the overtake booked in. But this is pretty much where I think we'll be stationed now, because the cars ahead of us, obviously Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, they're way too far ahead of us. But you know, what could have been, basically, because we could have been right there with Leclerc, battling for the win, essentially, or the lead of the Grand Prix as it stands right now, and trying to defend against the Mercedes cars. Instead, we're here, P4, on our own, no man's land, and pretty much now, I focus on that top 5, because this is going to be quite important for either the Drivers' or Constructors' Championship. And here Bottas finally comes down with a few laps to go in this Grand Prix, trying to make the move on the outside there. Leclerc goes defensive. They both wobble around on the front end. Bottas the long way around, still hasn't got the job done though, because into the next right-hander, they're still side by side, but you can see the advantage he has on the medium tyres. He's able to kind of jut through at the apex of that next right-hander and get up into first place. So the Finn books in this race lead. Leclerc down to second, Hamilton third. And now the question is, will Leclerc go down to P3 eventually? We now move on later. One lap later, this is Hamilton with DRS open, and this could be pretty much a slam dunk, because I assume Leclerc's now feeling some tyre wear. The Mercedes cars, obviously, with upgrades this weekend, are looking pretty quick. It's a deja vu sort of move here, as Hamilton makes this same exact one as Bottas did on the outside to the inside for the next right-hander, and he's up into P2. So Leclerc's down to third. So it's a 1-2 for Mercedes. Leclerc down to third, which is great news for me in the Drivers' Championship, which means Leclerc is only going to gain, 15 points to my 12 points, so only 3 points he'll gain on me. But the bigger story is, way back behind is this man, Sainz. He's behind Lando Norris, he's behind, I think, one of the Racing Points, both Red Bull cars, and with Mercedes having a 1-2 now, Bottas winning or leading at the moment, and Hamilton in second place. This is very bad for the constructors, because they're going to gain so many points on us. And so this is, again, why I keep banging on about it. Yes, I make mistakes, but I'm still here in P4 at least, whereas Sainz, he did a 2-stop. I don't know why, because, my engineer suggested me a 1-stop, so I don't know why the other side of the garage did a 2-stop, but he did. And so it means Bottas comes through to win the USA Grand Prix. To be fair, he breaks the Ferrari stronghold on this season. It's 5 wins in a row, and then a Mercedes win here with Bottas. It's a 1-2 for Mercedes, so kind of, balance is restored. Mercedes look back to winning ways. Ferrari down in third place with Leclerc. We get the driver of the day after crashing and spinning with Leclerc and recovering up into P4, but we might have issues now in the constructors.
The Mercedes team pulled out a fantastic performance today. They should be proud. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot. A well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So it's almost odd not to see a man in red overalls at the top step of the podium there. I kind of got used to our new Ferrari overlords in this season, but Mercedes finally break that streak, and they've looked mighty strong all weekend. They were dominating that first stint, and it's no surprise they made a 2-stop work for a 1-2. But Leclerc P3, as I said, great news for the Drivers' Championship, because he only gains 3 points on us, and the same for Hamilton. He only gains an extra further 3 on us with second place there. So we're still leading the way by 25 points. So that's a very nice cushion with 3 rounds to go in this season. But what's not a nice cushion is this. Mercedes with a 1-2, myself in P4, Sainz way down the order. Mercedes now are only 3 points behind us in the Constructors' Championship with 3 races to go. So it's all to play for still. Mercedes have really made up for their calamity at Japan in the best way possible, because, they had a calamity. They scored no points, but me and Sainz didn't exactly get a 1-2 to really punish them, whereas this race, they've punished us by, getting the 1-2 while Sainz is floundering down behind, a McLaren Racing Point car, and we had that issue, and we only got P4, so it is going to be interesting. As I said, in the last few races, Sainz just hasn't looked as fast as he used to. I've not got that same really great teammate, with me there, fighting with me against Mercedes. So it might actually be a very big struggle to actually maintain this lead with only 3 points of a cushion to work with. And at the end of this episode, it's actually been such a calamity of a race, financial-wise as well, because we get $0 for bonuses, because all our goals are, they're all, catered towards our cars qualifying well and fighting for podiums, and we did none of that today. So it's this is what happens, if you have a bad race weekend when you're a big team and you've, signed these sponsor contracts for the big goals. When you have a bad weekend, you have a really bad weekend. So $0 in that regard. We get a base salary, of course, so we're now up to a neat $21 million for the end of the season. Obviously, 3 rounds to go, so hopefully still earn some more cash before we sign a new teammate and all that stuff with Season 3 admin. But yeah, very, very tough weekend financially and also points-wise there. But for us, I mean, personally, we're still okay in the drivers, but obviously I care about the team because it's my team. That's the whole point. It's in the name. That's the whole point. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting last 3 rounds, let's say. But guys, if you did enjoy this one, be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly, full-on content. I've been aarava. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.